Okay, here we go. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for our May meeting. Once again, this will be the last meeting until September. We usually take a break in the summer, but there will be a happy hour next month. We'll announce details of that going forward. So just a couple of things for all our meetings. These are going to be recorded. We have quite a few people who actually go back to watch the videos of the meetings afterwards. If you have any questions, please save them till after the presentation. You can either raise your hand, unmute, and ask it, or you can type it in the chat and I can read it out so it can be recorded for everyone else. Okay, so with that, let's begin with the potential fall 2023 Parks and Recreation ballot measure. Today we have John Lloyd, Parks and Community Services Deputy Director, to walk us through some of the discussions and recommendations about this ballot measure.
Hello, how's everyone doing tonight?
Doing well.
I do have a presentation. If I could, yeah, there we go. Perfect. Let me get the screen share going. Are you all seeing just a big presentation slide? Okay, perfect. It's always a struggle to figure out which screen to share and make sure it's right. So yeah, as I said, all right, thank you for the introduction. My name is John Lloyd. I'm the Deputy Director for the Parks and Community Services Department. Tonight I'm here to present an overview and answer any questions that you may have about the potential parks ballot measure that's being considered by City Council this fall. I want to start by start playing a brief video, and I don't know if I actually shared correctly with audio. So we're going to try it. Let me unshare. Share sound. Found the setting. Look at that.
Hi, I'm Councilmember Kelly Curtis, Chair of the Parks Funding Exploratory Committee. At the request of thousands of our residents, the Council is considering a ballot measure this November to accelerate parks and recreation investments in a new aquatic center. We need your help to get it right. Please watch this 3.5-minute video on recommendations made to the Council and how you can add your perspective to the conversation. Thank you.
In September of 2022, the City Council convened 45 Kirkland community members from all walks of life to spend 6 months learning about Kirkland's parks and recreation system and to develop a potential parks ballot measure to enhance programs and facilities. This thoughtful and innovative group was named the Parks Funding Exploratory Committee, or PFEC. These are PFEC's recommendations to keep Kirkland one of the best cities in America to live, work, and play. New indoor pools for swim lessons, swim teams, and lap swim. Family-friendly warm water pools with lazy rivers, spray and play fun, birthday parties, senior programs, exercise classes, and more. New fitness rooms and equipment for aerobics, cycling, kickboxing, yoga, weight training, and other fitness programs. New gymnasiums for youth sports, sports leagues, clinics for basketball, volleyball, and pickleball, and more. Multi-purpose space for dance, youth and adult drawing, and camps for computer programming, film, art, Legos, and science, martial arts classes, and more. New activity spaces for music, technology, maker spaces, and more. These investments could become a reality with 1 or 2 aquatics and recreation centers located in the current Houghton Park and Ride, at 70th and I-405, or at the North Kirkland Community Center on Northeast 124th Street. PFEC's other priority investments include expanding year-round public restroom availability from 5 parks to 11 that currently have seasonal restrooms, such as at Denny and Waverly, and creating 3 brand new restrooms at McAuliffe Park, North Rose Hill Woodlands Park, and Terrace Park. Completion of priority segments of the Green Loop Trail in Northwest Kirkland, including both land purchases and trail construction toward the goal of a connected corridor from the Lake Washington shoreline to the top of Finn Hill. 7 new sport courts throughout the city, including a pickleball complex with 3 courts, 2 tennis courts, a full basketball court, and a sand volleyball court slated for Denny Park. expanding teen recreation programs, such as guided hikes and summer camps, and broadening the city operations of the Kirkland Teen Union Building to include drop-in teen center hours 7 days a week and life skills programs such as cooking, job skills, and financial literacy. And to serve a city with 9.5 miles of Lake Washington waterfront, increased beach lifeguard hours at Juanita Beach Park, Waverly Beach Park, and Doris Cooper Houghton Beach Park, as well as water safety programs such as 24/7 loaner life jacket stations and life rings at all waterfront parks. The Council received PFEC's recommendations and will consider them in May and June. Now the Council wants to hear from you. What are your priorities for parks and recreation in Kirkland? The Council will decide by mid-July whether to place a measure on the ballot. Dive in now to create the future of Kirkland's aquatics, recreation, and open spaces. Visit the link in the description to visit the survey and add your voice to the conversation. Want to dive deeper? You can review materials shared with PFEC at kirklandwa.gov/dive-in-now.
So before I jump into some of those recommendations and talk a little bit more about the PFEC process, I want to kind of provide a little background of how we got to this point. Based on the feedback received during the development of the 2022 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan, which is commonly known as the PROS Plan, the City Council added exploring a comprehensive ballot measure to their city work plan last spring. Throughout the PROS Plan process, we received feedback from over 4,700 Kirkland community members over the course of 2021 and 2022. And during that process, multiple different community needs were identified. So as I said, a variety of community needs were identified. Some of the most important amenities and facilities that were rated included parks and open spaces, trails and a trail system, restrooms in parks, and lifeguarded beaches. However, when asked to rate how well the needs were being met in a variety of different facilities and amenities, synthetic turf fields, pickleball courts, off-leash dog parks, restrooms in parks were some of the lowest rated items. Some of the programs and services that were rated as the most important included special events, fitness, aquatics, and sports programs. But the most important need for improvement that was identified throughout that entire process was an indoor aquatics and recreation center. So that gets a little background as to why this question and discussion got brought up. As the video talks about, City Council formed the Parks Funding and Exploratory Committee last summer. The committee is comprised of 45 members and was chaired by Councilmember Kelly Curtis. Half of PFEC members were representatives from groups like neighborhood associations, and half were recruited through an open application process. The Moss Bay neighborhood was officially represented by Alex Chen, although there were several other Moss Bay neighbors, including Sue Contreras, that served on the committee. PFEC met about twice a month, starting in September and ended in March, although we did just have a meeting last week for some follow-up recommendations. There were about 12 plus meetings, plus a tour of the Sammamish Community and Aquatic Center. In total, PFEC members dedicated over 50 hours to this process, and throughout that entire process, that's hundreds of different questions along the way. We started in the fall with a lot of baseline education building about what we do, how we do it, and where the needs are. And then as we progressed through the process, that's when we started diving in deeper into the different elements that were being considered. Some of the key considerations that PFEC members focused on throughout their process was the idea of having something for everyone, considering all ages, variety of interests, and ensuring that they were geographically distributed throughout Kirkland. You'll see, or as I continue going on, and as you may hear conversations in other meetings, PFEC considered a variety of different elements that could have been included in the ballot measure, essentially different packages, different parts of the ballot measure. And ultimately, at their final March 2023 meeting, 92% of PFEC members agreed on a recommendation that at least one facility and 5 elements that you saw in the video be included in the ballot measure. And I'm going to jump into those different elements here in the next few slides. 2 potential locations were considered for an aquatics and recreation center. One is the former Houghton Park and Ride, located on 70th and 405, and the other is where the current North Kirkland Community Center is located. We contracted with Opsis Architecture out of Portland to conduct a feasibility study, which included a market analysis, site analysis, and detailed costing information. The initial study resulted in 5 different facility options for consideration, a couple different options at Houghton Park and Ride ranging from 103,000 square feet to 86,000 square feet that had different amenities within them, 3-court gym versus a 2-court gym, an 8-lane lap pool versus a 6-lane lap pool, and a variety of different community and activity spaces. Additionally, the study presented 3 different options up at the North Kirkland Community Center. One was a 74,000 square foot facility that had a 2-court gym and a rec pool. And then there was 2 49,000 square foot options, one that had a 2-court gym and one that had a rec pool, and kind of swapping those out. And we provided that variety of different facilities really to provide a lot of different options and kind of get a sense of what PFEC was interested in, what they felt the community need was going to be. And with that many options, you often have more questions. And so there was a few more options that were requested of the consultants. So the city did request that they continue the study with 3 additional facility options, an even larger facility at North Kirkland Community Center to try and see if we could mirror the Houghton Park and Ride 86,000 square foot facility up at NKCC. And then also looking at a complementary combination of buildings. So a large one at Houghton Park and Ride and a medium one at North Kirkland Community Center. So that resulted in a 67,000 square foot facility at the Houghton Park and Ride that would be focused on aquatics and recreation, while the North Kirkland Community Center facility would be about 45,000 square feet and focused on recreation. And both of those options, there wasn't a lot of community space that was included. The final option was just pretty much a replacement for the current NKCC building, just slightly larger than it currently is, which resulted in about an 18,000 square foot facility that would be combined with one of the other Houghton Park and Ride options to ensure that we keep up that facility. On the screen, you'll see a few different of the renderings that the consultants came up with. These are not final designs. They're really just concepts to kind of show like, here's what this could look like, or here's how it could fit. So the 2 on the top right are the North Kirkland Community Center location options. And they really tried to work with the park's grade to make sure that it didn't overwhelm the residential nature of that facility or that neighborhood. And the 2 on the left side of the screen are the upper left one is the larger Houghton Park and Ride facility that's 3 stories tall, and the lower left one is the 86,000 square foot Houghton Park and Ride option. So as the video mentioned, one of the top recommendations was more year-round restrooms. So this element would actually renovate and winterproof 6 restrooms and build 3 new restrooms for a total of 9 additional year-round restrooms throughout the Kirkland Park system. Currently, there's only 5 year-round restrooms. One's located at Marina Park, Totem Lake Park. When 132nd Square Park opens up, it will have year-round restrooms. Peter Kirk Park and Juanita Beach are the only year-round restrooms that we have. Otherwise, we close down the restrooms and we use portable restrooms throughout the park system in the winter. The year-round restrooms were located based on park use with attention on having them dispersed throughout the park system. Additional sport courts was also a priority of PFEC. So this would fund the construction of 7 new sport courts across Kirkland. As the video mentioned, a sand volleyball court would go in at O'Denny. We would construct another pickleball complex, a full court basketball court, and a few additional tennis courts. Aside from the sand volleyball courts, the pickleball, tennis, and basketball courts, the location wasn't determined yet, but would be part of the process to ensure that those are sited appropriately, to ensure that they spread those amenities out throughout the city. Teen programs and the Kirkland Teen Union Building operations was another element that KTUB supported, that PFEC supported. There's too many acronyms. There was actually 2 different elements that were focused on in this regard that were under consideration. One was to continue providing the teen programs and services that we are providing currently. And the second was funding the operations of KTUB as a city-run facility, as opposed to contracting out with a nonprofit provider to do so. PFAC recommended a combination of both, and that was really to try and keep the costs down. So a little bit more work needs to go into this one. But what this would include would be year-round outdoor rec programs, such as guided hikes, yoga, water recreation activities, art and music workshops, active programs for teens, summer camps, and then we would continue our 10-week summer mobile recreation program that we started last year. For KTUB operations, the city would then operate that facility as a drop-in teen center, which would be available 7 days a week. We're focusing on bilingual behavioral health professional services on site and daytime activation to ensure that facility is utilized when the teens aren't utilizing it. So we'd be able to utilize it for additional programming and services for the community. The Green Loop Trail system has long been a priority to formalize the connection of parks and green spaces in the northwestern part of the city and to connect to the Lake Washington from the top of Finn Hill. This element would fund acquisition, private easements, and development of key priority segments of the Green Loop Trail in the Finn Hill and Juanita neighborhoods. And then beach lifeguards and water safety. This element will fund and increased lifeguard hours at the 3 lifeguarded beaches and a water safety education program, including loaner life jackets that would be available 24/7 at lifeguarded beaches. Currently, we only have life jackets out when the guards are available. So currently lifeguards are only on site from 12 to 6, July 1st through Labor Day. This funding would help expand those daily hours and extend the operating season a little bit earlier in the summer and a little bit later into the fall. As we've seen, and as the weather report indicates for this weekend, we're getting warmer earlier and earlier every year. And so the demand for those lifeguards out at the beaches would be met by being able to be there earlier than July 1st. So those are the 5 elements that PFAC recommended, plus the facility. We did keep Park Board up to date throughout the entire process. So they also had a representative on the PFAC committee. Excuse me. While Park Board supported PFAC's recommendations, they requested that City Council consider a few additional elements. One being a park safety element, which would include park rangers and other improvements, such as automatic gates to enhance the safety and security in our parks. They would like to focus on, they wanted to explore the conversion of additional sports fields to synthetic turf to allow greater multi-purpose year-round use, and the addition and development of permanent off-leash dog parks throughout the community. Based on Park Board's feedback, City Council did include these items in the community survey that is currently out, and I've got a slide about that in a few minutes, well, a few slides. So those are the main elements that are being considered. This is a timeline that shows some of the key dates coming up. Next week, City Council will spend their study session discussing the results of the community survey, the updated PFAC report, which includes the additional facility recommendation or facility concepts that were developed. And then beginning in June is when the debate really starts to get ramped up. In June, staff will provide a final draft of the ballot measure language that council will consider. They will present them a resolution to adopt the PFAC report. And if council does want to continue proceeding, they would authorize the recruitment of pro-con committee for the potential ballot measure. Essentially at every meeting through the rest of the summer, this is going to be a topic for discussion with City Council. At the June 20th meeting, there'll be continued discussion about the potential ballot measure. At the July 5th meeting, they would confirm pro-con committee appointments, and somewhere between that June 6th meeting and the July meeting, there'd be information about how they're going to go about recruiting those folks, and if anyone's interested, there'll be more information to come about that. But the last meeting before the deadline to get on the ballot is July 18th, and as you can see, on August 1st is the the deadline due to King County to get a ballot measure resolution to them. And that is the day of a council meeting. And so we couldn't get, they have to back it up by the previous meeting to make sure we get it submitted on time. With it all leading up to a November 7th election date. So lots of stuff coming up. The community survey, there was two parts of the community survey that were being done. One was a statistically valid survey that was conducted with 400 community members. That part is completed and closed, but we do have an open link survey that is available through Thursday, May 11th. As I said, council will continue deliberating what should be included on this ballot measure, or if we even should have one throughout this month and next month, with that final decision by July 18th. So if you haven't yet filled out this survey or you want to share this survey, you can definitely scan the QR code or go to the website listed at the bottom there and complete that survey. It's a pretty short survey. And with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have. But I'll leave this slide up for a second or two before I close out. This has a link to the website where you can find all the information that was shared with PFEC and any other information that you're looking for. And we do have a centralized email account for this project. Dive in now at kirklandwa.gov. That'll ensure that you get the best response and the fastest timeline turnaround possible. So if you do have questions, I would encourage you to either visit the website or shoot that email account a message. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everyone's faces again. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
John, you did a great job.
And thank you.
This is Michael, and you did it so fast. We need a minute
I hadn't
digest it.
rehearsed that one many times, so sometimes you get a little nervous and start running through them real fast.
Sure. So, question for you. You mentioned the one area. Here, I might as well turn my camera on. You mentioned the where the location for the aquatic rec center is going to be, and if I recall correctly, you mentioned it is going to be up by Brattle Trails. Was one of the locations? Is that right?
It's the old Houghton Park and Ride, so it's a little north of Brattle Trails. It is right there.
Okay, so in a little while ago, we had a presentation as Rotary Club of Kirkland Downtown. We had a presentation by the King County and Waste Management, if you will, and that was also one of the sites that they were looking at. Is that correct? You aware of that?
I believe so.
Okay, so is it just whoever can arm wrestle and get possession of the?
There's a lot more to that than I can speak very intelligently on. WashDOT indicated they were going to surplus that property over a year ago, and Kirkland was the only agency that put their name in the hat for it. King County may have with the siting of the potential transfer station. I'm not sure where that plays into that element, but we would have to work that piece out.
Okay, great. Thanks. Appreciate it. Well done. Very well done.
Any other questions?
Although I probably know the answer to this. Oh, sorry. Let's Jean, go ahead, please.
What's the funding of this?
In terms of how much?
Well, yeah, how much and how will there be a ballot measure to raise some money, or will we take out existing funds? What?
So the goal or the ask is to go to the ballot measure for funding. The likely recommendation the PFEC recommendation would be to go with a single permanent levy lid lift that would focus on funding these elements. That would range depending on obviously the price of the assessed value of your home. But for the median home in Kirkland, the number was around $275 to $290 a year, I believe, depending on which elements were included and what level they were funded at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my question, John, actually was assuming that Kirkland goes ahead and approves the ballot measure in November, what is the likely timeframe for completion of construction for the aquatic centers or center?
I would say it's probably about 2 to 3 years, realistically. Generally, you're talking about a year to design it, and then about a year and a half of construction. So give yourself a little buffer room in there to give it that 2 to 3 years.
Okay, great. So any other questions for John? No,
You can always shoot us an email at diveinnow@kirklandlaw.gov.
Okay.
And we'll
I'll be sure to put the links into the video description, including the links to the survey. I think we've already sent that out. It's already on our website, but you know, just as a reminder for everyone else. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and going through this presentation. Once again, purely on time, perfect.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of information.
Yes. Have a great night.
Great, thank you.
You too.
Okay. So next up, we have Dawn Robinson, Senior Community Engagement Coordinator for the city, here to talk about the potential project over at the Houghton Village. So that's the one that's really adjacent to Moss Bay. I think technically it's part of Everett, if I'm not mistaken, and also I know North Houghton also has a staked interest in this as well. So Dawn, if you're there, you have the mic.
I'm here. Can I share my screen?
Yes. Hang on. Go for it.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I think I know a lot of you on here, but if I haven't met you before, I'm Don Robinson and I'm the Senior Community Engagement Coordinator. If you have any questions about neighborhood associations and working with your community or anything like that, I'm the person that can help connect you to those things. I don't always have all the answers, but I can connect you to it. So let's see, share my screen. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Can you guys see this?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, hold on. Not yet. Hold on. John was a little bit better than I was. Okay. Share this.
Oh yeah, it's coming up.
All right. You guys can see it now?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the community engagement process that we're in with this Houghton Village property. I'll give you a little background, give you some ideas on what we've done so far and the feedback that we've heard so far through this engagement process, and then talk to you about the next steps that we have. So just a little background, the city purchased the Houghton Village Shopping Center using a 3-year interfund loan to acquire the property with the intent to identify a development partner and long-term financing plan by the time the interfund loan comes due in May 2025. So overall, we have to have an answer about what we're going to do by May 2025. Just so we're clear, this is the first round that we've done so far of a multi-level public engagement process. So we really are engaging with the public. We're talking with the community members, the stakeholders involved to make sure that we have a really clear picture on what would be the best use for this space for the community. So we had 3 public engagement objectives for this first half. First was the staff sought to inform the community on the council's intention to use the Houghton Village Shopping Center to support a variety of potential public purposes. So within this feedback that we're getting, the questions that we're asking, we're only going to the council really only wants to consider a few key things: affordable housing, school space, nonprofit program space, arts and cultural space, city recreational space. One thing that we want to be very clear in our engagement is that, as included in the resolution 5543, the council does not intend on using this property for permanent supportive housing. So that is not on the table for what we would do with this thing. Anything that would come from the long-term use of this property will be in one of these 5 categories that I listed before. Secondly, we wanted to educate the staff. The staff wanted to educate the community on how the future uses of the property are regulated. There's a lot of conversation worrying about building heights and what we're actually going to do there. And one of the things that we wanted to be very clear on is that the Everest neighborhood plan, which is part of our city's comprehensive plan, is very clear that, and without any changes to the code, nothing can be higher than up to 5 stories. That doesn't mean that this property will be redeveloped to 5 stories. As we go through this process, we'll figure out what works the best, but it can't, under the current code, be developed more than 5 stories high. And finally, we wanted to get the direct community feedback on how the city can best achieve this public benefits. Like we mentioned above in those 5 categories, but we wanted to create this space to be thriving, walkable, and sustainable retail type development. And so that's kind of the framework that we're working under, and that's all of the engagement processes that we've been a part of has been under this framework. So what we've done so far, and I can provide links to some of these things to you. I don't know if some of you have been a part of some of these or not, but this is what we've done so far. And like I said, this is just the beginning of it. So we have a city landing page on our website, and I can show you guys that page where all of the feedback that we've been getting, all of the questions throughout that feedback, we provide the answers on that landing page. And that's where we can go to get the most up-to-date information on what we have and what we've been doing. We hosted a community forum here at City Hall. It was virtual and in person, and that was the first kickoff event where we got the most of our feedback on a giant scale. The council was there, city staff, our subject matter experts from our planning department, our deputy city managers were there, and that's the community forum that we had. We also attended neighborhood association meetings just like this one, but in the first half that we did to solicit feedback, we did those that are covered under that zoning code, the Everest neighborhood and the Central Houghton, since it is a part of their neighborhood. That's where the property is. We did host virtual small group meetings. We hosted 2 of those that were open to anyone in the community to come to solicit feedback. We also met with Lakeview Elementary administration, because Lakeview Elementary is the school that is right there in the area. Our Kirkland, we solicited all of the feedback that we got through our Kirkland from the community. And then the Central Houghton Neighborhood Association did their own community survey in which they shared that feedback from that with us and with the council. So all of that in this first part of the engagement process has been taken into consideration. So what did we hear when we talked with them? So we heard lots of things from all of these different feedbacks, but we kind of summarized it into certain categories. So one, of course, if you were a part of it, like I mentioned, building height. People were very concerned with making sure that we weren't going to even consider putting really, really tall buildings in there. They didn't want to change the height of the buildings because that would change the character of the neighborhood, because this piece is a part of that neighborhood and it's almost like in a community center for that neighborhood. So they wanted to make sure that we didn't exceed that maximum 5-story restriction that is defined in the Kirkland Municipal Code. They had lots of questions about when we say affordable housing, what did we mean? Like I mentioned, as per Resolution 5543, the council does not intend on using this property for permanent supportive housing. But we did have some questions that came up about area median income, and that's AMI for King County, and that's set by the county. And I can provide a link to the Regional Coalition of Housing website where we get the AMI rate from. So if some type of affordable housing, it would be along those lines. It wouldn't be permanent supportive housing. Lots of people had a strong desire for a placemaking and aesthetically pleasing type of redevelopment to make sure that it stayed in line with what the neighborhood has already had. This place is going to be a functioning neighborhood center for it. And so a theme that kept emerging was that we wanted to make sure that the redevelopment looked like it was a part of this neighborhood. And so those are things that we have to consider as well. Lots of talk about multi-generational community uses for the site that covers everything from before and after school care to provide a space for that for kids, to having a space for nonprofit organizations in the redevelopment. In this process, we heard from a lot of the ones that are already in the area and looking for spaces, like the Washington Judo Academy and Meow Cat Rescue. They came to all of the meetings that we had and gave their feedback. And lots of people wanted to find ways for like seniors or a use for that for the people in the community that are there now. They wanted retail. People wanted retail. There were several references to kind of the outdoor areas and the community setting that's done up at the villages of Totem Lake. And so people wanted us to know that they wanted places where people can come and sit, but also that this area's foot traffic would go outside of that 9 to 5 time. So this was somewhere that would be very lively and have foot traffic throughout the evening time. So small retail stores, local restaurants, something like that, and places outside for people to be. We also heard feedback from traffic concerns. There was a universal consideration that emerged from this engagement that it would increase traffic in the redevelopment and that we needed to be aware of that. And so the city urged that the community urged the city to consider traffic, pedestrian safety, and parking when we were planning for whatever the redevelopment was to come. And part of that comes out that whatever we do decide to do, the city staff will do a traffic study and use mitigation efforts in order to handle that. Along those same lines, they wanted it to make sure that it was pedestrian friendly. Some community members expressed the want for to the redevelopment have some type of connection to the Cross Kirkland corridor that's there, because that would allow for people to get into the area, but not necessarily need a car or anything like that. Some of the concerns. We also heard school attendance projections, enrollment growth, especially at the Lakeview Elementary, to be mindful of if we're putting families in the area and the strain and the increased need that would put at the elementary school. So like I mentioned before, we have until 2025 for the interfund loan to make sure we know what we're going to do and to have the time to reach out to the community and hear and really plan and execute, but we need a near-term use. And so if you listened to the city council meeting that we had the last Tuesday, the city council approved the staff recommendation to invest $706,000 plus design costs to upgrade the former space that's there right now for Studio East to occupy it during this 2-year time. It was a former grocery store and it needed a lot of work in order for it to even be used. And so that it's not just sitting unoccupied for the time while we do this until 2025, Studio East will occupy that. We put out a request for proposals and Studio East was the only organization that responded to it. And so that's how they were selected. Studio East, while they're in this, once they get in this space, they will cover the operation and maintenance cost of being there. And the funding from this comes from $250,000 already allocated from the biennial budget plus the REIT reserve. So that's how we're paying for this to make it usable. And so the next steps is we will be presenting this feedback to the city council on May 16th. And then the next round of public engagement will continue, and it's a broader outreach, but it will include key stakeholders such as the Lake Washington School District, the local university, additional property owners around this Houghton Village property, and then, as always, any identified stakeholders who would like to have their input, the neighborhood associations. All of our feedback is being collected to help make the decision. What I just showed you, we're going to present to the council at the next council meeting, but then once this next public engagement round starts, we'll do that probably throughout the summer and then bring another recommendation to the council in the fall. So with that, that's kind of a review of what's been done and where we're at. We don't have no decision has been made. There's no decision that'll be made in the next couple of months. Like I said, we're still doing a second round of engagement to make sure that we're really hearing what the community needs and how to best use this space. And so with that, I'll answer any questions you guys have to the best of my ability.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Don. First question comes from Jean. Question was, you talked about the REIT reserves. What is REIT?
The REIT reserves. That's a good question. That's a financial question.
Yeah.
All right.
We have
REIT is real estate
Yeah.
excise tax.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got it. And then just a question about the potential future funding of this project. So it seems like any of the sort of the different uses that have been presented so far typically will require a tear down of the existing site, and then I anticipate some sort of new development. So how would that? What's the plan to get that funded, or is there already some mechanisms in place?
Well, I can't speak and say that it would require anything to be torn down for rep because we don't know what we're gonna use it for, what it's gonna be, because that's the engagement process that we're doing right now. So I can't say that it'll be torn down. But as far as the funding for it, part of it is what we're doing is depending on what type of the development it is, we would be looking for development partners in it. But until we know exactly what we're going to do from the community feedback that we're getting, I can't really say exactly what would be torn down, what would be there, and the cost of it at all.
Okay.
Don, real quickly, I know Austin's time is coming up. Alex, real quick. Don, nice to see you again. Last time you
It's nice
spoke,
to see
you spoke at our club as well.
Yep.
So, in reading about the project, some of the examples that were given with 12th Avenue Arts building in Seattle, that's very nice. None of those are a concern of mine, frankly. The one that has not been tested yet that I know of is the Together Centers, right? Is one that has all of the services in one location. And I know that obviously Kirkland being earmarked or designated as a women and children's city, if you will, for those in need. I don't have that concern because I can't see much of a threat in that. But the concern of mine is in that congested area, when you have all of those services provided in one location, obviously it will probably create other issues, but I know it's too early to speak on that.
Yeah.
Has anyone shed any light on that at all? Has anyone spoke of it?
Of the traffic concerns that would be
Well,
in there?
traffic and other concerns, quite frankly. There's a school south of it. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's heavy business tech center and
Yeah.
just a popular area.
Yeah, it's a very popular area. And some of the feedback that we got was about making sure the traffic and the pedestrian and the parking and that comment about connecting into the CKC, wanting to make sure that it's a space that it's a community space that can be a place for placemaking. There's a lot of feedback that has come into it and a lot of concerns that have been raised. What this process is all about is collecting all of that and synthesizing it and giving it to our council and our subject matter experts here in the city. Yeah, so all of those concerns, yes, have been reached out, have been expressed. And I encourage you guys that if you have any concerns that you haven't heard reflected in some of the feedback that I just shown you, this is what this next step is about. Here is what we have. Here's what we've heard. And if there are things that haven't been said, then please reach out. You can come to any of the next round of meetings that we have, or you can just send me an email. You can send our deputy city managers, our city managers, the council. This process is because we want to hear from the community on what to do and how we're going to redevelop this space.
For right now, we're in a wait and see mode.
Yeah, well, we're in the participation. We're not waiting, we're participating. Yeah.
Sure. Or we can put Toby on the spot.
Oh no, is he on? I didn't. Oh yeah,
he is.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
No problem, Michael.
I think we have a follow-on question from Jean. What does the REIT apply to and how is it collected?
It's a real estate tax. I think that's what I can get more information on how it's applied. There's specific rules to it. I know that it has to do, it applies to like these type of developments that we can use the money for. But Jean, I'd be happy to get you a full explanation on REIT and how it can be used, how it is collected, and the plans that how we've used it in the past and how it's being applied here.
Right, it's just a term I'm not familiar with. I'm
Yeah.
used to property tax, but I
No.
don't know what real estate tax
No,
is.
and that's what's great about this, because you just brought that question up, something I never even thought about in this thing. And so now what I'm going to do is on that landing page that I'm going to pull up, I'll show you what it looks like. We have a, can I share my screen again? We have a frequently asked questions about stuff like affordable housing, and I will add and clarify what REIT is on this page. It'll be, you'll see it in a few days. You can come back and make sure if you don't see it in a few days, make sure you come back and tell me, but I will make sure we clarify that for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, I'm encouraged by this whole thing. I think this could be a place for the community to come together even more than they do now. This has a lot of good potential.
Good.
And Gene, typically it doesn't impact until a sale of a home is made, a real estate is made. So that's
so it's a sales tax on real estate. Is
essentially,
that what you're saying?
essentially, yes.
I see. Interesting. That does bother me because that's not equally distributed among the residents and the citizens of this. It's just some people will pay for it then, right?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad we're have
Sure.
some conversations about
I mean,
this.
that's just this much knowledge of it, or maybe this much, depending on who I'm talking to.
I want to make sure that we are all supporting the development and encourage, we're all included, shall we say.
Sure.
And don't worry, Jean, because if we're all going to know what REIT is, and it's going to be very clear to all of us fairly soon. So,
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Say, Don, since we have you here, I was wondering if you could give us a quick update in terms of the NSP and any project awards for Moss Bay.
I will, but I don't want to take the thunder from the other Don, who is your NSP rep, who wanted to talk about it as well. But Don, did you want to go ahead and talk about it, or do you want me to go ahead and say it?
Sure.
I know that he emailed me. He emailed me this morning to make sure that he could talk about it. So I don't want to put him on the spot.
No, go ahead, Don. I just wanted to clarify that the project had been, funding had been approved by the city council. But I thought maybe Alex would announce it, but you might as well go ahead and do it.
Oh, yeah. So yes, so I'm sure you guys are aware that Don submitted 2 projects in the NSP process. Through the scoring from the NSP panel and the technical criteria, you guys ranked number 2 on the RRFB at Lake Street at the Aegis Community Center. And so at the last council meeting, that was one of the 5 projects that has been approved by the city council. So that you guys did get that one. The other one didn't meet the criteria to be funded. So you did get the one RFB, the one at the Aegis. That process of design and being out for scope and building is going to start in the summer. And so you can anticipate that RFB will be there next year.
All right, fantastic news.
I have a question, Don.
Yes.
You mentioned that the RFB at 2nd Avenue South and State Street might be funded within 6 years, I think, through a different program.
If I did, probably it was saying it was is it one that's already on one of the city plans? So okay. So one of the things about the NSP program, for people who don't know, it's a funding program. So it's not this is a good project, this is a bad project. And Don can say it was a very intense, we go back and forth. We try to make sure we understand it. We make sure that it's a good project. So they're all really great projects, but NSP is just a funding opportunity. What happens with those projects, like the second one on Second Avenue that doesn't get through on the funding part, those projects are still either a part, if they're already a part of another plan that we have, or if it's a project that is being brought to the light to our CIP plan. And so it'll get worked into the overall plan. And so if there's the one that's a 6-year, I have to go back and confirm it, but if it's a part of the TBD, it would be the one that's being in the 6 years. So that's what it would be. It would be a part of another funding source. NSP, Jean, you know what, Jean, you're going to make sure that we don't speak in, we clearly state what everything is. NSP is our neighborhood safety program. And it's a neighborhood way. We get $350,000 allocated to the neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods come together to submit and vote on pedestrian safety projects to make our neighborhoods easier to walk or to ride their bikes, and to make it safer for people just crossing the street most of the time. And
Thank
so,
you. I'm familiar with that program. I just
okay.
didn't remember what NSP stood for.
Okay, cool. Neighborhood safety program.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much, Don, for attending and presenting I guess the update in terms of the Houghton Village shopping center there. And we look forward to being in touch and communicating more with you on that issue.
Yeah, please. And if you guys have any questions about it or need anything else clarified, like I said, I will make sure I find out the answer for you, even if I don't have it. And yeah, so let me know if you need anything. Please feel free to reach out.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
You too.
All right. Christian, I think I saw your head pop in there for a minute. Christian Knight is the Kirkland Community Engagement Coordinator, and he's going to talk to us about the Lake Street Pedestrian Scramble.
Hey, thanks, Alex, so much. Hello, everybody. How is everything going this evening? I'm sharing my screen right as we speak. Let's see if this works.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't
we see
work.
it. Perfect.
The Lake Street Pedestrian Scramble. I'm sure you've heard something about this in the last couple of weeks. I'm here to tell you a little bit more. My name is Christian Knight. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator in the Capital Improvement Program. That is the program that builds stuff around the city. We do everything from sidewalks, sewer mains, water mains, and we even do intersection rebuilds like this one. This, as some of you might know, is Doug Davis.
Yes.
He's standing in his building in Hallmark Realty, looking out at the Lake Street and Kirkland Avenue intersection. It's a view that he's had for a couple decades. He and his staff have enjoyed this view. And over the decades, they've seen dozens, maybe scores of people tripping, coming off the curb, and more ominously, nearly getting hit by a vehicle turning right. And about 7 years ago, Doug Davis and his administrative assistant Flo decided to write their second letter to the city council, urging the council to take action, to do something with this intersection. And specifically what Doug had proposed was to create what he calls an all stop. That is, when the pedestrian phase is active on any one leg of the intersection, all vehicles stop at every leg of the intersection, creating this pedestrian scramble. That's where his idea started, and that's where it ended. It was just focused on the traffic signals themselves. And so City Council took a look at this proposal and the history of the intersection, and they asked staff to study it. And sure enough, staff studied all intersections in downtown Kirkland, and they found that the Lake Street and Kirkland Avenue intersection was the most dangerous when it came to vehicle pedestrian collisions. This most recent study in 2018 actually mirrored the results from a study over a previous period. 3 pedestrians were hit by vehicles in both study periods. And the intersection had one other thing about it, and that is that it was one of the missing connections between the waterfront and the downtown storefronts? What would connect Marina Park to Park Lane and eventually Kirkland Urban? So the city council decided to look more closely at this intersection, and it directed staff to do so. And what staff found was a lot more than just the traffic signals. The span wire on that south leg of the intersection, there's only one other like it in the city, hanging from a span wire, and that one's up on Juanita Woodinville Road and Northeast 145th Street. They also found non-compliant curb ramps, cracked sidewalks, and what you couldn't see on the surface, beneath the surface, was a failing stormwater system that was in bad need of repair. So the city council took this opportunity to reimagine the intersection as a pedestrian scramble that would change the look of this most trafficked intersection in downtown. This is looking east. This is looking south. And this is looking west. The new intersection would feature decorative pavers that would tie aesthetically into Park Lane. It would upgrade all the curb ramps to be ADA compliant and bring the intersection itself level with the surrounding sidewalk. It would raise the intersection to make pedestrians more visible to people who are driving. It would preserve all the trees. It would preserve the historic clock. And it would provide new benches, bike racks, waste bins. It would restore the pots and the wrap around the junction box. And of course, it would replace the traffic signals. And it would do one other thing. Not only would it connect the downtown, the waterfront to the downtown storefronts, it would connect the downtown waterfront and the history of Kirkland through these decals resistant to impact that would be embedded in the surface itself, harkening back to the days of the Kalakala, the Leschi, the Acme, the Riania. Now, to realize this vision, we have to build this vision, and building can be an intense experience, especially for the folks who operate businesses downtown. We know this from our experience on Park Lane. In fact, we expect a very similar experience for the downtown businesses for the Lake Street and Kirkland Avenue pedestrian scramble as the Park Lane folks had when we rebuilt Park Lane in 2015. And not only will the nature of construction be similar, but so will the length of construction. Construction will be about 5 months. But one thing will be different about this intersection, and that is the length of the full closure to automobiles. On Park Lane, vehicles were prohibited from going through the street the entire length of construction. So that was 6 months. For the Lake Street Pedestrian Scramble, vehicles will be prohibited for 2 full months. And the original schedule called for a summer closure, July and August. That schedule has already changed because we are reevaluating the schedule after hearing from downtown businesses. The other possible option that the City Council will be considering on May 16th is a construction schedule that begins in early spring of 2024. Regardless of when it occurs, construction will require at least a 2-month closure. And in this picture, what you see is orange, yellow, and blue. The orange is the area of the construction. The yellow is where the signage is, and the blue are turnaround areas for folks who might have gone a little too close to the construction site and want to turn around. The detour itself will be extensive, but Moss Bay and downtown Kirkland have experienced this detour before, back in September of 2022, when Continental Construction closed the street to move a crane across for its 112 Lake Street project that it's been working on for quite a while. Now, the capital improvement program did favor the summer construction schedule because this project is incredibly and somewhat abnormally sensitive to weather. For example, this project involves quite a bit of asphalt, really around the edges. And asphalt needs to be 55 degrees and rising in order to lay it. That's why WashDOT, the Washington State Department of Transportation, doesn't even really allow agencies to lay asphalt down until after April 1st, and why they require them to stop laying it down before fall. The other part of this project that is incredibly sensitive to weather is the stormwater system. It's really hard to replace and upgrade a stormwater system when it's storming outside. And then the third aspect is the concrete itself. We're not just building utilitarian concrete here. We are trying to transform this key intersection of downtown. And to do that, we are integrating aesthetic appeal. So that means decorative concrete, decorative pavers, and decorative concrete is both structurally and aesthetically sensitive to rain. The other aspect that the council is having to consider is any grant funding implications. This project has it's more than $1.5 million in grants from the state and the federal government. And some of that is not in jeopardy, but the staff is determining how tenuous some of that funding is if we do delay it. And I believe staff is learning that a lot of it is safe. So that may not be an issue for the council. And of course, one of the very, very significant variables that the council will be considering is the effect it will have on downtown businesses. Again, as I said earlier, whether we construct it in late summer, which is when it would be now, or early spring, it's going to be tough. But as the Park Lane experience showed us, if we look hard enough, there are opportunities, what we call micro solutions, to make things a little bit easier. And we're going to be looking for those, and we're going to be reaching out to the community, reaching out to folks like you to help us identify them. So that's the story on the Lake Street Pedestrian Scramble. And if any of you guys have any questions, Alex tells me I've got 5 minutes to take them. Who's first?
Obviously, everybody likes the project. Nobody wants to deal with it while it's being built.
That's right. Yeah. It's like rebuilding your kitchen, you know?
That's right. Well, I do also feel for the businesses, and unfortunately in downtown Kirkland, even the detours, it's going to be very difficult for people to come back around down to those businesses. So I can see it; they're not essential. Obviously, they'll be tough. It's tough, but I'm looking forward to seeing it obviously completed.
Yeah, I was telling my daughter just the other day that, you know, the difference between here in life and here in life is really a lot of coasting and then a series of scrambles, like high intensity discomfort. But if you don't like if you don't do those little, take on those little moments of discomfort, you won't get from here to here. You know, you're going to stay here.
Sure.
And you're just going to coast here. And the council is a very ambitious council with and with an incredible vision for the city, and it wants to be here. And so it's, you know, it's leading us into a series of short-lived scrambles that I believe wholeheartedly will improve the quality of life in Kirkland.
I agree.
There's a question in the chat from Mike. Isn't spring the rainiest time to be laying pavement? The timeline would likely be delayed because it wasn't warm enough. Was September, October time slot ever considered?
Yeah, I do believe that at this point, September, like if we were to proceed with the current schedule, it really would be a September, October schedule. Spring is a rainy time, and that does have some significant implications on the length of construction for this project. And again, that's something that council will be considering, and they will be receiving counsel from staff and ultimately deciding on May 16th.
So, Christian, really briefly, I mean, downtown Kirkland, the area that you're really speaking of, I keep racking my brain to try to see the type of businesses that there. And in looking at the map now, there's Bottle and Bowl and obviously Hallmark Realty, but really they're not retail businesses per se that would be severely impacted, other than maybe a couple. Has there been any thought as to maybe moving them for the short term into vacant locations, and then possibly moving them back so there's a less of an impact?
Well, this is going to sound kind of cold, but that would be a decision that each business would have to make.
Okay.
That's not something that the city of Kirkland would be directly involved with. However, we did have a pretty big meeting on April 24th with the downtown businesses.
Right.
And we had pretty significant attendance. We had about 30 business owners show up. And toward the end of the meeting, we got to a pretty constructive phase during which one idea was to establish a Uber Eats, like food delivery spot in Marina Park with like maybe under the pavilion, maybe under a tent, best view in town, and provide space for each of the restaurants that would be impacted. And so folks could go there and enjoy the view and eat the food from downtown without having to worry about construction. Obviously, that was a solution aimed primarily at the summer schedule. And that's what I think is a very clever micro solution.
Yeah, because you obviously 2nd Avenue South is going to be open, and that's going to be the detour route. And so, and most of that stretch where the new construction is going in for the apartments, I forget what they're called, but where Hector's used to be, that's all obviously vacant, as not finished anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Good point. Sue, you had a question. I saw your hand raised earlier.
Christian, you mentioned something about the pavers and the special cement you're using not doing well in the rain. Why would you choose materials that don't do well in the rain here?
Well, they perform well in the rain after they've cured.
Okay.
Yeah, they're totally fine after they've cured. It's just in those, embryonic moments after it's been poured, they're pretty vulnerable to the rain.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good question.
Question in the chat from Al. What makes it attractive to businesses to push it to next year? The business will delay it next year as well. So I think it's just, what is the rationale from the businesses to actually move the dates?
To push it next year. So the rationale from the businesses to move it from July, August, or September, really July, August, into spring is that for a lot of those businesses, July and August is peak season. The salmon are running in July and August, and they want to have their nets out. And some of them actually make up for most of the year this is anecdotal and this is what they're saying, just in those summer months. Now, this isn't true for all of them. Like, for example, is it Salon 55? The gal there said that actually she would prefer a summertime closure because her clients would be more likely and more willing to walk. Summertime is a much nicer time to walk. And so it's, and then urban wellness, she said that a lot of her business is either when school starts, so like right in September, when school ends, and in Christmas, because that's when people are sort of focused on boosting their immune systems, and they're trying to get loaded up. So it's not the same for everybody, but for a lot of them, for most of them, summer is, it is the time to make money. And we are, we've taken basically anecdotal responses from the businesses, but we're also looking into it from the actual numbers and figuring out exactly how much of their revenue comes in the summertime. And then we'll give that to council.
So after the decision's made, where would we receive notifications of the decision?
So the plan right now is we're waiting for council to decide on May 16th. And then once council decides, really our first point of contact is going to be with the downtown businesses to let them know what to expect. The website will be updated. And if we are proceeding with basically the current schedule, which again is going to be more like at this point, mid-August, September, October, we'll do a mailer, and that mailer will go out to everybody in downtown. It'll go to every address in downtown. And we will continue working with the businesses to find these micro solutions that I know exist. We just got to figure them out.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much for joining us, Christian. Great presentation, very informative, and very timely, I guess.
Right on. Thank you, Alex. It was a pleasure to be with all you guys. Have a great evening.
Thanks again.
Okay. So the welcome to Kirkland Mural Project. Austin, thank you so much for joining us and listening through our meeting so far, but welcome to the Moss Bay neighborhood. You have the mic.
Sweet. So can I share my screen? It says it'll stop yours. Perfect. Can you see this?
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Sweet. So some of you may know me already. I'm the artist who led the Salmon Mural Community Paint Day project. I know Sue was mentioning at the beginning of the meeting, the salmon at Juanita Creek. So we did the Community Paint Day. I worked a lot with Juanita Neighborhood Association and Finn Hill Neighborhood Alliance. The wall's kind of right between the borders of those two neighborhoods. And so we hosted a Community Paint Day for this mural about a year ago. And it started as this blank wall. This was from before last April. And the reason I'm presenting here is because I'm working on a new mural project with Rotary Club of Kirkland Downtown and the Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation. And we already have our wall for it. It's a 144-foot wall, retaining wall. This is on the same intersection as 2nd Ave and Lake Street. It's across the street from what used to be the old 3rd floor Fish Cafe building. It's just across from Ben and Jerry's near Anthony's. And so this is on the lower side of the retaining wall. We've already secured permission from the owner of this wall. Then we're a go to be able to paint a mural this summer. And our theme is we're calling it the Welcome to Kirkland mural. So as people are driving into downtown Kirkland from Lake Washington Boulevard and from the south, the goal is that this is the first wall they see as they drive into downtown, and it welcomes people into downtown Kirkland. And so the design will be filled with all sorts of different imagery and designs and landmarks and places and things that represent and celebrate all our favorite aspects of Kirkland. So we've done a brainstorming stage right now, what we love about Kirkland, what parts of Kirkland we want to include in the design. And this is the super rough sketch, but there's going to be a lot more of refining to go into it. And we will have the design that will project up onto the wall and then host a community paint day this summer for community volunteers to come out and help paint by number the whole design up, similar to like we did with the mural in Juanita. So it'll be similar to like a postcard almost, where each letter has different elements that we love about Kirkland all in the design. And so it's a pretty wide sidewalk here. There's also the whole dirt area below the wall and then parallel parking along the street. So we've got a lot of space. And one of the things we're working on is permitting with the city. We've already got the first steps of the permits in to be able to close the sidewalk for our one-day community paint day weekend, which will be a Saturday, likely in August. And so we'll have all the volunteers lined up along the sidewalk area. We'll have a tent set up where we'll have like volunteer check-in, and we'll have the whole, it'll be like a painting party for this Saturday in August is what we're looking at. And our timeline is still to be determined the exact day, but that's our thoughts right now. The 5 key partners in the project, I'm the artist, and I'm collaborating with Rotary Club of Kirkland Downtown, who is helping us sponsor it and plan it. I know Michael's here. Houghton Foundation is the owner of this wall. They're actually located in the building across the street, what used to be 3rd Floor Fish Cafe, and they've given us permission to use the wall. They're helping us out in planning it. The city of Kirkland, of course, is involved for permitting. Mostly the permit we need is not to be able to paint the wall, since it's a privately owned wall. We don't need a mural permit for it, but we need a permit for the sidewalk and closing those parallel parking spots just for that one day. And if we do any sort of like spraying a primer before the paint day, we'll want to make sure that we close off the spots for that day. If there's any specific prep we're doing on the wall, like pressure washing, we'll want to have the sidewalk closed. Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation is helping us fundraise. We're launching a crowd fundraiser and is helping with all that coordinating. And then Urban Artworks is a nonprofit that helped us host the actual event side in Juanita. So Urban Artworks brings in all the brushes and the tarps and the tables and the ladders and the supplies. And then they help have staff to lead the community paint day event and help facilitate during the day of. Some additional groups, we haven't reached out to any of these except Moss Bay Neighborhood Association. You're the first one we've talked to. And this is pretty much like tomorrow, the next day. This week, we're gonna reach out to all of these that we have some connections with through Rotary Club and that I've worked with other projects. Like I worked with Kirkland Downtown Association for the Santa's Mailbox project that I was a part of this winter. And so Moss Bay Neighborhood Association, we'd love to have you guys involved to help spread the word and share all about the project. We're looking to have about 350 volunteer painters over the span of the day. So we'll definitely want to get the word out with everyone in the neighborhood. And then Kirkland Heritage Society, our goal is we want to have the mural celebrate the past and present of Kirkland. So a little bit of history incorporated too. And so one of our ideas, this is the plaque from the salmon mural in Juanita that talks about like the history of Juanita Creek. Our goal is to do a plaque that talks about the history of Kirkland that Kirkland Heritage Society can help us write. And Kirkland Heritage Society actually filmed a little documentary about the salmon mural. So we've worked with them and we have connections with pretty much every group that we're starting to reach out to see how different people can be involved for it. And so that's one of our ideas for it. As I said, the community paint day will be a Saturday in August. There'll be about 280 volunteer painters. This is bigger since it's a bigger wall than the Juanita salmon mural. There'll be about 40 painters per hour spread out over shifts. So there obviously won't be 280 people there all at the same time, but every hour, 40 new people will rotate in. And then what we're gonna do, this is new for this mural, is a community touch-up day with more experienced artists. So Saturday, we can host anyone of any art skill level because with paint by number, all people have to be able to do is paint solid colors inside the outlines. So we literally had volunteer painters ages 4 to 84 come out to help paint for the salmon mural in Juanita, because even the elementary school and middle school classes, students could come out and help paint solid colors. So we're definitely going to focus Saturday on youth and families. And then Sunday, the day after, we'll host about 70 painters. There'll be a longer shift period. And then we'll have all the detailed touch-up wording, like refining all the detail aspects the day after. As far as what we've already done on this project, we've applied for some grants, we've started permitting, we've started design sketches and brainstorms, and we've signed an MOA for permission. We have official approval to paint the wall. The next steps, we're starting website, posters, promotion, launching the crowd fundraiser, and then opening up over the next few months. We'll have the prep, the pressure wash, and then the community paint day, hopefully in August is our goal. So as far as the budget draft, part of the budget is for hiring Urban Artworks staff to help facilitate the event. Part of it is for wall prep. One of the things we're looking to do, we actually got a company to donate. They're 100% doing it for free, coming out to repair 2 cracks on each side of the wall as the structural part. We don't want to paint a brand new mural on a wall that has the big cracks on it. So we're going to fix those. We got a company to donate. But another thing we're looking to do is smooth out the texture of the wall. It's extremely textured. And so we have connections with a couple companies. One person in Rotary Club is an engineer and knows a bunch of architects who know people who do things like this. And so we're hoping we can get some sort of a good deal, but smooth out the entire surface of the wall so it'll look like a brand new wall is our goal for that. And then pressure wash, and then we'll have to do a coat of primer since it's bare concrete. And then as far as paint, this cost is all the like maximum cost, what it would be if we had to buy everything at full cost. For our Juanita salmon mural, Sherwin-Williams of Totem Lake actually 100% donated all of our paint for the whole entire project, which was about $5,000 worth of paint. And so our goal is we can get some sort of either discount or donation for materials like paint. So the full number at the top, like the 24,000, was the absolute like maximum cost we're looking to fundraise. And hopefully a lot of that doesn't have to be a monetary fundraising, but it can be in the form of discounts and donations through connections in the community. And so part of that could be paint, community paint day purchases. We got like 12 dozen donuts donated from Top Pot Donuts for our past mural. And so things like that, working with different places, either bringing in different businesses or spots that can help support the event would all be super cool. And then one other idea, this is in there, is kind of an optional bonus thing. And the owner of the wall is potentially going to chip in to help out and make this happen, is either some built-in lighting to like shine up on the finished wall, or like a cap at the top so that when it rains, water doesn't run down the surface of the wall. Like Spud, the top of the building has a little lip that prevents the face of the mural from getting all sorts of water running down it. And then the plaque, the signage, we're looking to do like a big coming soon banner to hang up on the wall in its spot for like the month ahead of time, where people can scan the QR code to maybe sign up to volunteer. And then our goal is, if we fundraise enough, to do welcome to Kirkland merchandise. So like we did Save Our Salmon t-shirts and stickers and all sorts of merch that we had at our mural community paint day for salmon for the Juanita mural. And so our goal is we would create designs as t-shirts that are welcome to Kirkland designed. And we could, for Juanita, we gave away, it was 200 t-shirts free to all the volunteers. Anyone who helped paint got a free t-shirt. But we may end up selling some of the t-shirts as well if we don't fundraise enough to give them away. And then in that case, all the proceeds would likely go back to Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation to help fund things like the free concerts in the parks or Kirkland events like that. And then, as mentioned, the crowd fundraiser through Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation. So that's how we get the total 24,000. But like I said, it'll probably be about 15,000 is what we're trying to raise. And this lines up very closely to the same cost as the Juanita Creek mural. We raised from a variety of different methods is how we approached it. Part from crowd fundraising, like a GoFundMe on Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation. Part of it was discounts. Part of it was like Juanita Neighborhood Association, Fin Hill Neighborhood Alliance, and Kiwanis all help pitching in to help fund the project. And then part of that was from merchandise that we sold at the event. For Juanita, we did 0 grants and we had 0 local business sponsors. And so even though we're trying to raise a little bit more for this project, we think it's doable because we've applied for several grants. And so we won a grant from Rotary Club. We won a grant from Kirkland Youth Council. We're pending on a grant from Washington State Arts Commission. And then part of the reason we're reaching out to Moss Bay Neighborhood Association is for the neighborhood matching grant program that the city has. So this is similar to what we did with the Juanita Neighborhood Association. I just pulled up, this is the historical listing of the Juanita Neighborhood Association matching grants that they've been awarded. This is an outdated, I think the last one, this shows us 2018, but we got a grant from Juanita Neighborhood Association for that mural last year. And normally, as this shows, the neighborhood matching grants are between $6,000, $7,000, $5,000, $3,000, anywhere in the range. The lowest you can see is $300 up to $7,000. So there's a wide range of what the neighborhood matching grant can be. But our goal is that we can work with Moss Bay Neighborhood Association to apply for one of the matching grants to help fund the rest of the cost to get us to that extra step on making this project happen. And that's all I have. That's it. And let me know if you have any questions as far as all of everything going into the project. We're all excited about it.
Great job, Austin. Sue, you're muted.
Austin, I don't know, that was a wonderful presentation. And I don't know if you could see all of us that have our videos on, but we all have permagrins on our face. This is going to be really fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know you helped paint the first one. So the community paint day is like our favorite part of it. It's not just someone going out there like me. It's not me just painting the whole thing. It's really that we get to involve the youth and the families and all these groups and neighbors that all get to come together to help make it happen. And then you can drive by it every day and say, I painted part of that letter, part of that, part of the cyclist, or part of the gazebo. So that's pretty cool.
So Austin, super exciting project. You did a great job with the presentation. I think a lot of folks online and in the community would love to get involved. In terms of the signups, is it for a certain time slot? Is that what you're anticipating? Or is it just show up?
And so the signups were pretty popular
for
Juanita. We actually had 160 signup spots, and we reserved a few spots for like Kiwanis Club or for local groups. Like we had a whole Girl Scout troop come out. But once we reserve a couple of the group spots, like Rotary Club, then we'll open the rest of the spots up to the public to sign up for 1 hour at a time. And the maximum we're letting people sign up is 1 hour. So in Juanita, all 160 spots completely filled up about an hour and a half after we opened signups. And so that just tells us that people want to do more events like this. And so we're opening up, we're going to do even more spots. This is a bigger wall, more detail. So we're expecting about 350 community paint day spots. So we're going to double that to host more people for it. Barbara?
Yeah, so I want you to know that my dog Bean and I walk down that sidewalk at least 3 times a week. And we've been concerned about how ugly that wall has been for years now. And this is such an improvement. I am so pleased that you're taking this on.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be pretty cool. We targeted about 5-6 different walls that we were looking at. One of them being on the side of Hallmark, other ones around downtown. We had a wall in the Cross Kirkland corridor we were considering, and this was the winner. We said this was the best visibility, highest impact, and it would really get enjoyed and be the best spot for something like this to come to life. So we're excited.
Absolutely.
Sue again.
Austin, what are you doing with the dirt between the wall and the sidewalk?
That'll stay the same. They could potentially, the group that owns the wall, Houghton Foundation, may do any sort of landscaping around it. They were discussing potentially like lighting that would shine up onto the wall so that it would display and highlight the finished mural and just show it off really cool. But most likely it'd stay the same.
Landscaping would be nice.
Cool.
It's like mud right now. It would be nice.
And Sue, some of that may be eliminated because we do intend to repair the cracks, as Austin mentioned. R&R Construction is planning on doing that. We're going to see about when we do that, then the drain coming from the wall will be eliminated, which will not have the mud that will disperse out onto the sidewalk. So that automatically will change it.
Cool.
So Austin, if people have ideas, for sponsorships or donations, whatever, how do you want them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I have my website's austinsart.net. We haven't launched the public website for this mural yet. We haven't really officially announced it to the public. I can drop my site in the chat where you can grab my email or you can sign up for my newsletter, which I'll basically send out emails once volunteer signups open, and people can be in the loop and know what day we schedule and all that's going to happen. But we'll hang posters all around downtown in the coming 3-4 weeks, and we'll start to officially announce it probably starting in the next week or two. And so this is kind of like the first steps, and we're confirming all the exact what date it's going to be.
Okay, fantastic.
But yes, to donate, it would be Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation, which is kpcf.org. And that's going to be launched, I believe, in the next week or less, is our crowd fundraiser site up there. And we'll share that all around with the community.
But for right now, Alex, I think, as Austin mentioned, the goal of this meeting is to be able to get the matching funds, right? That you have access
the goal
to.
is the neighborhood matching grant. If we can partner with Moss Bay Neighborhood Association to write that, we've written some other grants for this project that we've won. We've won 2 grants already, and so the goal is if we can apply for that grant, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. We are working towards that. So our treasurer is not available at this time typically, but she's been looking into exactly what we need to proceed with that. So we'll definitely be in close contact, and we want to get as much support for you and this project as we can.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Any other questions for Austin? Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for attending once again. We totally appreciate you sitting through the entire meeting, although that wasn't totally necessary. Thanks for sharing this very exciting project with us. And I think everyone's going to see what we could do to make this as good, if not better than your previous ones. So with that, I think that concludes our neighborhood meeting for today. Just a reminder, we do have a happy hour that's going to be scheduled for next month. Also on Monday evening, and we won't have a meeting until September. We usually take the break in the summer. So until then, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thanks again. See you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.